So in my opinion, voice AI has hit a maturity threshold. The tech isn't the bottleneck anymore. Instead, it is you and how well you can build reliable human-like agents. That's exactly why mastering Pipecat is such a good decision. As companies get more serious about voice AI, they demand reliability and control that only open source platforms like Pipecat can deliver. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your first Pipecat AI voice agent and how to deploy it with Twilio to handle outbound and inbound calls. I've made this process ridiculously easy, and all the resources from this video will be linked in the description below. So for the people who don't know what Pipecat is, it is an open source framework for building real-time, multimodal, and voice conversational agents. Its closest competitor is LiveKit, but I think Pipecat is winning in 3 major areas. First is how simple their pricing is for their hosting solution. It is quite simply 1 cent per minute per active agent. So think of this as, Vapi's 5 cent per minute fee, but obviously it is a fifth of the price. And they have a reserved agent cost, which is 0.05 cents or 1/20th of a cent, which you're essentially just paying for always on compute to not have any cold starts when someone calls your agent. So obviously if you run this kind of reserved agent 24/7, for a month, that would come out to just $21.60. So pretty cheap overall. The second really good thing about Pipecat is just how easy deploying your agent is. You take your working code, you containerize it with Docker, push it to the cloud with their CLI, and there you have it. That is it. And now you have a running agent in their cloud solution. The last thing I really like about Pipecat is the intuitiveness of its code. I just find Pipecat to be so much easier to read, write, and understand than, its closest competitor, LiveKit. By the way, if this is your first time watching me, my name is Hugo. I run Twilio AI, and if you want us to build one of these voice agents for your business, there's a contact form on our website down in the description below. Okay, so let's get into actually building our first AI voice agent. Just before we get into the code and to show you how to actually go through everything, the process, and how to kind of set up the AI voice agent and connect it to Twilio with the code that I'm going to provide you in the resources. I first want to mention just how good Pipecat's documentation is. So if there is any help or any sort of questions you have, you can ask AI right here. You can join their Discord and ask. They are very good at responding because it is a smaller platform and therefore there are less amount of people asking than, Rito and Vapi. And their documentation as a whole is amazing. So what I did for this phone bot, for this AI voice agent that is connected to Twilio, I actually used their kind of out of the box example. And then I made it a bit better because it wasn't able to handle outbound calling. And so I just kind of went over it and improved it for you guys to make it easier. And it's just overall very, very good documentation. So this is the code right here. We have Pipecat Twilio phone example. Now, this example runs a simple voice AI bot that you can connect to using a phone via Twilio. Required AI services, so these are basically the services that we're using, is DeepGram. I'm using Cerebrus and Cartesia. Now we are using the OpenAI service in Pipecat, so you can use any OpenAI compatible LLM provider. So you can use Grok, Together AI, DeepSeek, Cerebrus. Basically, 99% of LLM providers will have an OpenAI compatible endpoint, except for Anthropic, because obviously those two are the big players. Even Google is OpenAI compatible. It's sometimes a little bit glitchy, but most LLM providers will be OpenAI compatible. Then we're using Cartesia for text-to-speech, fast, cheap, and one of the best in terms of quality. So what we're doing here is we're doing obviously all the imports. I'm not going to go into all of that. As you can see, some of them are the services, some of the are the configs like RTVI, some of are just the pipeline tasks and pipeline runners, etc., which are just necessary. And we have some VAD here, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going to get too into it. This is all that you need for a phone agent. So here what we do is we load the environment variables. So our API keys, our Twilio account SID, our Twilio SID, the ngrok environment variables, etc. Here, what we do is we kind of define the speech to text model. So here we're using DeepGram. Here we're defining the text to speech model. So here we are using Cartesium. And as you can see in our voice ID, we have a certain voice ID, which you can get from Cartesia. You can just go into their playground, log in, choose any model you want here, or choose any voice, sorry. So let's say English speaking woman, and you would copy this ID right here and paste it in this voice ID section. Then we define the LLM. So we have API key equals Cerebrus API key, model equals Quen3235B A22B, instruct 2507. God, that is a mouthful. And the base URL we changed to the Cerebrus URL. Here, what we are doing is setting some value to this variable right here. Now, because we are using it in our system prompt for context. So we just basically giving the time and putting it into the system prompt. And here, obviously in messages, we're defining the system prompt, which is very, very simple. It's just you are a receptionist, you're on a phone call, respond naturally, do your best to help as you can, use check availability. That's about it for the system prompt. So it's by no means a production ready system prompt. Here, what we're going to do is define the tools. So we have a check availability tool. That is it for now, because like I said, this is more of a demo rather than an actual, production system, because the code is potentially production ready. The actual LLM and the tools and the everything like that isn't production ready, because that isn't the point of this video. So LLM context and aggregator, this is basically taking all of the messages, the tools, and defining that the tool choice equals auto and putting it into a context together, as you can see here. Now, in case you don't know what tool choice is, you basically can define whether the tool choice is optional or whether to potentially always use a tool at every run or to only use a tool at certain times. That is a parameter. Here, what we're doing is registering the function of the check availability. So as you can see here, we have check availability. The parameters are going to be function called params. This is just the necessary class that Pipecat expects. And the function is very, very simple. Like I said, it is demo. What we do is we wait 2 seconds and then we return that the availability is true and therefore there is availability. Then we register that function, which is just basically telling in the LLM class that there is a function. And then we aggregate all that context for the LLM. Here, what we do is we use RTVI. So this is kind of I don't know how to explain this, to be honest. I'm not as technical, but it's basically normalizing and routing frames/events between steps. So here we have the pipeline. Very, very simple. We define the actual pipeline. So all the things within it. We have the transport input, we have the RTVI, so this is obviously the routing, the formatting, the frames, and propagating events. Then we have speech to text. I think most people know what that is. We have the context aggregator, so this is adding the user text to the LLM conversation context. Then we have the LLM, which obviously everyone knows what that is too. And then we have the text to speech, which most people know what that is too. So then we have the transport.output, which is sending audio back to the caller, and then the context aggregator.assistant, which is saving all the assistant speech into the context for the conversation and for the short-term memory. Here we have the task, which is basically running the pipeline with certain audio settings and metric settings enabled. So as you can see in the parameters, we have audio in sample rate as 8,000 as well as audio out. This is simply the standard rate for phone calls and is probably the rate you should go for. Enable metrics is just going to show the logs. Definitely have it on because you can then go into the logs and basically do some debugging or just looking at it and giving it a read. That will be definitely helpful to understand how pipeline works too. Then here what we have is on event handler on client connected. So basically when the client connects, we send a prompt to kick off the conversation, which is say something like, "Thank you for calling the Salisbury, how can I help you today?" So if you've ever used Vappy before, this is kind of like selecting the model generated response as the first kind of touch point. So you can either have like dedicated defined message that the model always says first, or you can have the user speaks first. And this one is kind of the model generated speaks first option. Then what we have here is on the disconnect. So when the client ends the call, we actually stop the pipeline task, and that is it. So here what we have is just like the runner. So we actually run the pipeline, and then we define F. So this is all, by the way, in this run bot section here. And now we have the next section, which is the defining of the bot. So this is the main bot entry point for the bot starter, which is just like the template. So here what we're doing is we're passing the WebSocket URL to auto detect the Twilio transport and call data. So we're auto detecting and just doing exactly what that comment says. Next, we have the Twilio serializer. So it's basically going to attach the call identifiers and credentials. So it needs the stream ID, which we're going to get from this call data, because we pass the WebSocket for Twilio. We get the call ID. I don't know if I said that twice, but we get those two pieces of information from the call data, and then we get the account SID and the auth token from the environment variables. Next, we have the transport. So this is essentially how is the transport happening. So if we remember the pipeline, we have this transport.input and transport.output. So it's the thing that receives audio and the thing that sends audio back. So our transport in this kind of template is going to be fast API WebSocket transport. So that is what we are using for our transport of the service. Now there is other transports. Again, you can look at the documentation. So if I go into here, we can go to guides, and I'm sure there is a section here which is called transports. Where are we? There we are. And as you can see, they have daily transport, fast API WebSocket transport, which is the one we are using, LiveKit's own transport, because this is open source, so we are actually able to use it, the small WebRTC transport, Tavis transport, and WebSocket transport. So those are all the options. And for this one, we're using the fast API transport. So we also enable some parameters, or basically do some parameter stuff, which is audio in enabled equals true, audio out equals true, obviously. Add wave header equals false, because we don't need that. VAD analyzer is going to be the Celero VAD analyzer, because we're using Celero's VAD for turn detection. And then we're having serializer as serializer, which is our Twilio serializer. It's quite hard to talk about code in a natural language, so I'm sorry for the kind of repeated words there. And then we start the bot using this transport, which has everything together. And then if main equals main from Pipecat .runner.run import main and run it. That is about it for the bot.py. Now I'm going to quickly show you outbound.py. I mean, this is essentially just handling the starting of an outbound call, and that is it. So to be fair, I don't even need to show you. Next, we have setup ngrok_twilio.py. This is some code I created, which basically what we do is we connect to your Twilio account. Well, not we, this code. You can check it. You can read it yourself. This code is basically going to take your account SID and auth token, connect it to Twilio, list your available numbers, and then you select the number that you want to use and connect to this AI voice agent. So in your Twilio, let's say you have 10 numbers, you're like, oh yeah, this is the number I want this AI voice agent to speak on, and this AI voice agent to be under, and you select that, and then the agent connects and you can run it. So that is the code. I'm going to show you everything to do with actually setting it up now, because obviously that is the explanation of the code, but how do we actually set it up to get it working? What we need is some API keys. So the first one we're going to need is the ngrok API key. So sign up or log in. If it's your first time using it, then sign up. Very, very simple. It is free for testing, etc. You're going to go into, as soon as you sign up, you get this page here. You're going to go into your auth token and you're going to copy it and you're going to put it in the .environment file. It will say there, ngrok auth token, and you're going to paste it after the equals. That's the first thing we need to get. Then in the Twilio console, so again, sign up to Twilio, log in. Most people will be logging in. You're going to go into your account dashboard and you're going to scroll down. And once you scroll down, you're going to copy the account SID and the auth token and paste that into the environment variables, again, with the matching words, whatever you want to call it, and paste that in there. And then finally, you're going to need to grab your Cerebras API key. I don't need to show you how to do that. You're going to go into Cerebras, grab the API key. If you're using Cartesia, grab your Cartesia API key. And that is it for the API keys. Once you've done all your API key setting, what you want to do is you want to pip install your requirements. So you're just going to do pip install R requirements. All the kind of instructions will also be in the README file linked in the resources. So you're going to do pip install R requirements and make sure you're in an environment variable. Oh, sorry. Make sure you're in a virtual environment. So if you're in Cursor, you're just going to go into this thing right here, press create virtual environment, and that will work. I already have a virtual environment, so I do not need to do that. And once all of that is done, then what we can do is we can do Python setup ngrok underscore Twilio.py, and we will see something like this, which is available Twilio phone numbers. And as you can see here, obviously you can't see the numbers because I'm going to have to blur this. I have 4 numbers available to me. They have the number as well as the current URL that it is linked to. Basically, when a call comes in, what URL is the number going to? So for this, a lot of the numbers, as you can see, I probably showed this, is going to Twilio inbound call. Sorry, vapi.ai/Twilio/inbound call. So obviously these numbers are linked to some Vapi agents. And then this one right here, we have this ngrok free app. So this is actually the number we're going to use. And we're going to press 4 because the number is under the 4th number. So I'm going to press 4. And what we get is this ngrok public URL. And as you can see, the number, so this is the number, again, it's going to be blurred, has basically been updated to be running on this URL. So now when that number is called, Twilio will basically send data and all the information and expect things from this URL, which is what we want. Then this code is going to ask you whether you want to write pipecat proxy underscore host to the environment variable. Just going to press yes. And now we get some next steps, which is very, very useful. Here, as you can see, it says ensure the bot server is running. So we currently don't have the bot server running. So we're going to copy this exact thing. It is going to give you the exact URL and the exact thing that you need to copy. So we're going to run it. And as you can see, it is now running the bot. Next, as you can see, it says call your Twilio number to test the inbound call. So those were the 2 things only that we needed to actually test the inbound. So let's do that right now. Hello?
Thank you for calling the Salisbury. How can I help you today?
So for some reason, the model has really, really long response times. And I looked at the logs and it's basically all to do with this right here, OpenAI LLM service processing time. So for some reason, Cerebrus is very, very slow, which is extremely unlike Cerebrus. So I'm going to quickly change this to Grok, Grok with the Q, and give it another test call. And then I will carry on with the rest of the video. So I can actually show you this working with the good latency that it does work with. So I've restarted the bot.py server. I've inputted the Grok URL and a Grok model and my Grok API key. So now it should be running with a Grok model. And I obviously had to shut down the server so that it reloads and is actually now running and processing with the Grok. So let's give it another call.
Thank you for calling Salisbury. How can I help you?
Hi, I just wanted to see if you would potentially be able to have a reservation for tomorrow.
Of course. I'd be happy to check availability for tomorrow. To make a reservation, I'll need to know what time you'd like to dine and how many guests will be in your party.
Yeah, tomorrow ideally 6:30 p.m. if that is available, and for table 4, please.
Perfect. Let me check if we have a table for 4 available tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Yes, we do have a table for 4 people at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow evening.
Amazing. Yeah, please book that for me. Okay, so it's not going to book anything because it doesn't have a function to book, but that gave you the example. So for some reason, I don't know why, which is very, very rare. Cerebrus had very, very bad response times. Maybe that's something to do with my quota limit or something. I'm not too sure. So I switched it to Grok and it all worked fine. So as you can see, the latency is amazing. That is another amazing thing about Pipecat. The latency is all up to you, and you have all the metrics in this log section so you can see the issues. I instantly noticed that the OpenAI LLM service was taking too long, which I knew the OpenAI LLM service was Cerebrus, and therefore I could change that to Grok and it worked perfectly. So that was the inbound call handling. Now the last thing is to make a call and basically do an outbound call. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this exact thing right here. And as you can see, it says 2, which is the number 2 call. So here I'm going to input my number on my iPhone. So the number that I want to pick up with, and the from number, which is going to be the number that we selected in this process right here. So I'm going to grab that and basically paste that into a new terminal. So I've just pasted it in. As you can see, it says initiated call SID, and I can already, see I'm getting a call. It says memory voice agent because it's the same number that I used for the demo for the long-term memory voice agent. But it is calling, as you can see. So the outbound calling is working. So let me give it an answer.
Thank you for calling the Salisbury. How can I help you today?
Hi there. I just wanted to, book a reservation.
Lovely. I'd be happy to.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Obviously, a restaurant receptionist would never do an outbound call, but this is a demo to show you the code working. Cool. So I think that is everything for this video. You got to see the code. You got to see the setup on how to actually get inbound and outbound calls working. Now, this is obviously all just development stuff. And if you actually want to push it to production, you're going to have to containerize this into a Docker, which is a container program, or I don't know exactly the name of it, and then push it to the Pipecat cloud, which, like I said, has amazing pricing. It is very simple. For that, you should really go into the Pipecat documentations and then find the deployment tab right here. And then all of the questions you have, everything like that will be sorted in here. Or you can just ask the AI, or you can ask the question in their Discord, and I'm sure they will help you get it done very, very quickly. So hopefully you found that video useful. Like I said, all the resources down in the description below. It will be so simple. If you found this video not that helpful, then please look at the README file in the GitHub. That will also tell you exactly what to do with the code in order for it to work and in order for it to get up and running. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in my later and future videos. Bye.